how long does it take before you notice results from 5-AMINO-1-MQ? So a lot of people, we want results really quick with anything we do, and I'm no different than you. And the thing I love about 5-AMINO-1-MQ is depending on what outcome you're looking for, I'm going to give you the time frame so that you can just calm the horse down and just kind of get relaxed. And I think you're going to find this fascinating. So in this video, what I'll show you is if you're looking to lose weight, what peptides you can utilize with 5-AMINO-1-MQ to accelerate the results. If you're looking to build muscle, athletic performance, I'll also talk to you about the combinations that I use and how quickly you can get results that you never imagined possible. So let's jump in. So 5-AMINO-1-MQ, what is it? Well, 5-AMINO-1-MQ, it turns off this pathway called NNMT. Now that's a pathway that can cause a lot of fat distribution, a lot of inflammation in your body, and is one of the most detrimental pathways as we age because it causes inflammation in our whole body. What researchers identified, this was back in the 50s, is they said, wow, if we can inhibit this pathway or turn it off, we can actually have people much healthier. What researchers did for decades is they've looked for molecules, and it was finally out of the University of San Antonio, Texas. They looked at like 1,000 different molecules that would inhibit this pathway, and 5-AMINO-1-MQ emerged victorious. I mean, it was not only did it have like the safest profile, they literally could find no side effects outside of, some people when they utilized it, they got a little jittery because it increases NAD, or they felt a little nauseated. But they found it was very well tolerated and it worked phenomenally well. And so if you're looking for how fast to get the result, well, it depends on what result you're looking for, like I mentioned earlier. So many people in the 5-AMINO-1-MQ, you think of this for weight loss. You also think of it as muscle building, and you think of it for your endurance. And so the first thing 5-AMINO-1-MQ does is it helps increase your NAD in your body. So not only do you get better NAD production, but you also hold on to the NAD longer, about 20 to 40% longer. And NAD activates the sirtuin, so you get better energy in the mitochondria. And it's a phenomenal way of boosting your body's ability to utilize both fat and sugar as an energy source. So it creates more metabolic flexibility. So if you're looking for weight loss, most people in the first 30 days, you'll see about 5 to 7 pounds of weight loss. Now, if you stack this with the GLP-1, and for those of you who don't know what a GLP-1 is these are peptides like Ozempic, Mounjaro. Many of you have probably heard of those, but a GLP-1 is a glucagon-like peptide, and it turns off the hunger signal in your body. And it allows your body to slow down and absorb a lot of the nutrients that it needs, but it also stabilizes insulin. So it creates what's called insulin sensitivity. And so if you're using a GLP-1 and you have more weight that you want to lose, we've seen on average people, when they combine it with 5-AMINO-1-MQ, lose about 10 pounds. And so fast weight loss is not always the goal. I mean, I like the old saying, smooth is slow and slow is fast. And so it's no different with this. But if you consistently use this 5-AMINO-1-MQ, we see about 5 to 7 pounds of muscle in 30 days. But the other side that you're going to see is how quick will you notice energy benefits. Now, we've worked with a lot of patients who have chronic fatigue syndrome, they've had Lyme disease, they've had mycotoxin exposure, and they notice energy improvements literally the day of taking it. And that's pretty exciting because what you'll see when there's more NAD, now your body's immune system, your cells can start making energy inside of the cell instead of outside of it. It's called a cell danger response. Instead of putting all the energy towards fighting the infection or getting rid of, whatever toxins in your body, now the cells can make energy, and that actually feeds the immune system, and your immune system can start going to work. So if you stack 5-AMINO-1-MQ with like thymosin alpha-1, if you're somebody who has suffered from, mycotoxin exposure, any kind of biotoxin in your environment, maybe you've had Epstein-Barr, Lyme disease, some kind of autoimmunity, well, you want to get some remodulation in the immune system, and that's where thymosin alpha-1, thymosin beta-4 are phenomenal because these peptides are made by your thymus gland. And and they retrain the intelligence of the immune system. And the beautiful thing is when you're looking for body recomposition, you can use 5-amino-1-MQ with a peptide called ACE31. Now, ACE31 is a myostatin inhibitor, and in the clinical trials, they took these postmenopausal women, and these postmenopausal women had put on more fat and they'd lost muscle. And so they used DEXA scan to see, okay, what is the fat to muscle distribution in their bodies? And they looked at it before, and then they did ACE31 for 30 days. And then at the end of the 30 days, they did another body composition scan. And what they found is these women were able to lose 9% of fat from their legs while gaining 5% of lean muscle. And they also found that they had a fat reduction of about 4% in their midsection and gained about 3% of muscle. So that's pretty phenomenal. So if you use 5-amino-1-MQ for muscle building, because in the animal models, what they found is that you can have about a 70% increase in contractility. So that's one way that you can measure strength, is by looking at the contractility rate. And so just by stacking those two peptides together, you can have an enormous benefit of really seeing fast body composition and muscle gain in a short period of time. In 30 days, you can see a complete transformation. You know, we've had patients start seeing definition in their abs. We've also had patients who have noticed that they start seeing some veins in their arms. So phenomenal way of using this. So one of the things that you can do to accelerate the improvements in blood sugar, because that's a big reason why we use 5-amino-1-MQ. In fact, in the early research, they wanted to see how this would work with metabolic disease and with cancer. And so we can talk about how to accelerate your expectations and improvements just by combining some peptides with 5-amino-1-MQ for these conditions. So let's start with metabolic issues. So the big one on the metabolic issues, 5-amino-1-MQ, while it does cause lipolysis, where you burn the fat by turning off that NMT pathway, you'll see a reduction in visceral fat, but the way you can accelerate that and keep your hemoglobin A1C down, what we'll find in hemoglobin A1C, it takes about 90 days to get it down about 1% if you're not using a GLP-1. But if you add a peptide called adipotide, and what adipotide is, we call it the compassionate assassin, because what this peptide does is it goes in and it triggers apoptosis in these cells that are in the blood vessels that feed the white fat. So white fat in our body is the metabolically expensive fat that you don't want. And so just by turning off that white adipose tissue, you activate the mitochondria and you get what's called beige fat, and that's what 5-amino-1-MQ does. But with adipotide, you just completely eradicate a lot of that underperforming, inflammatory, expensive fat that we carry around called white fat. So adipotide with 5-amino-1-MQ, and once you get rid of that, what you see is an even furthering improvement in blood sugar. And then if you're using a GLP-1, you want to monitor your blood sugar very carefully so you don't drop it too low. And then you want to make sure you're getting the protein and you've got the exercising that you need. So this is kind of interesting. The cancer studies, what 5-amino-1-MQ does in cancer is NMT is that pathway that can bring in a lot of the inflammatory molecules that signal the cancerous cells, and they allow that tumor to grow. But by turning off that pathway, you essentially are stopping the food that is feeding that cancer. And so one of the things you can add is a peptide called FOXO4, because what FOXO4 does is it clears out senescent cells, or these zombie cells. And the FOXO4 is this pathway that our body utilizes, and when that gene's expressed, our body goes in and senses the cells that are underperforming and gets rid of them. It goes through a process of apoptosis, so it clears out the cells, and then you don't have that risk of having these rogue cells that don't have that right genetic expression. They didn't get that intelligence, didn't get transferred over when there was the cell turnover and cell death. And so now you get rid of those cells that could potentially feed the cancer while using, with the FOXO4. And then while using that 5-amino-1-MQ, you're creating better metabolic sensitivity, so you have better metabolic engine. You're activating NAD, which cleans up the sirtuins. So that sirtuin activation is what keeps those cells silenced. And then you're also, that NNMT pathway throws off the inflammation, that gets turned off. And so it's a great way to support your body, for those of us who are trying to prevent cancer and to try to optimize our health. This is the way 5-amino-1-MQ can really maximize your benefits. And so for those of you who loved learning about 5-amino-1-MQ and you want to go even deeper, then you'll want to check out my video on what supplements to use with 5-amino-1-MQ. I'm Regan Archibald. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you on the next video.